Welcome to How to Live Mindfully in Everyday Life. I'm Ellen Bradley and I'm going to be your facilitator tonight. And I'm just wondering, with a show of hands, how many people feel that they could be a little bit more mindful in their everyday routine? Pretty much everybody. And I'm assuming that's why you're attending this workshop tonight. And I'm also wondering, how do you think being a little bit more mindful, or even a lot more mindful in your everyday life, how do you feel that that could be beneficial to you?
I think it helps you live in the moment instead of worrying about the past or worrying about the future.
Yeah. Okay, helps you live in the moment, not worrying about the past or the future. What else?
Not making impulsive decisions.
Not making impulsive decisions, for sure. Anybody have another one? Okay, so we know it helps not make impulsive decisions. We know it helps keep us present, not in the future, not in the past. So I'm just wondering, for the purposes of everybody in the audience, what are we talking about when we're talking about mindfulness? What comes to your mind? Controlling your mind? Yeah?
Being aware, being attentive.
Yes, being aware, being attentive. You're nodding. Yeah. So all of those things. So mindfulness is really being in the present moment on purpose. It sounds so simple. So why is it so difficult to stay in the present moment?
Because of our monkey mind.
Because of our monkey mind. I love that. What is a monkey mind?
It's going all the way.
Yeah, it's going all the time. Any other reasons to think that it's sometimes really challenging to stay in the moment?
Distractions.
Distractions, yeah, absolutely distractions. Anything else?
Regret.
Regrets, yes.
Stress.
Stress, yeah. So all of those things. So it can be really, really hard to stay in the present moment. And when we're not in the present moment, we're actually projecting our thoughts into the future, as someone already mentioned. And when we're projecting our thoughts into the future, we're often ruminating or worrying about what's coming next. What are we going to do after this workshop? What are we going to do 2 days from now? How are we going to get the groceries and take care of the kids and go to work and meet the deadlines we have? And so our thoughts are often going towards the future. And what kind of mood state do you think that we're in when we're doing that? Anxious, yes. Any others?
Fearful.
Fearful, for sure.
Eating too much. Eating too much.
Eating too much, yes, out of fearfulness and anxiety, eating too much. Anything else? So you pretty much got it, yes.
Being a poor listener.
Hopelessness.
Hopelessness.
If you're worrying about the future, you don't think you can do it.
Right.
Makes
yes.
you poor listener
Makes for a poor listener.
because you're thinking what you are going to say.
Yeah, you're thinking about what you're going to say instead of being in the moment. So what that does is it puts us in a state of anxiety to differing degrees, from just mild anxiety to sometimes panic and real discomfort. And so our body can't really tell the difference from what our mind's telling us. So if we're saying, oh, we got all these things to do this week, our body gets ready. It gets in the fight or flight mode. It gets ready and the adrenaline gets pumping. And that can kind of be the way we live our everyday life if we don't bring ourselves back into the present moment. So when we're not projecting our thoughts in the future, if we're not in the present moment, conversely, we're putting our energy into the past. And that looks like, if only I took that job, I'd be in a better financial situation right now. If only I talked to that friend after we had a fight, I'd still have that friendship right now. If only I married this person, I wouldn't be so unhappy or happy right now, usually the negative. And so if we're doing that, what kind of mood state are we generally in?
Depressed. Gloomy.
Depressed. Regretful, right? Depressed, gloomy. Anything else? Resentful. Yeah. So sometimes guilt. Sometimes it's only regretful, remorse, guilt. And when we put our energy into the past, we don't really save enough energy for our future. And so if we get up and we're already thinking about the past, I'm in this situation again, when I could have been here, when I could have been there, we don't have enough energy for our future. So think about it if I use a technological example, just because we're a technological age, and I have no idea about what gigabytes actually are, but I'll use that as an example. Let's say that you have 100 gigabytes of energy to carry through your day. So every day you get 100 gigabytes of energy. And you've got 50 or 75 already in the past when you get up in the morning. That leaves you with about 25% gigabytes of energy to get through your day and to get through the future. And what that does is it makes you tired. And you feel exhausted all the time. And you feel like, why am I so tired? I don't know what's causing me to be able to make it so difficult for me to get through the day. And so what happens is we have to get that energy somewhere, because we still got kids to drive to hockey and all those things. We still have groceries to get and houses to mend and jobs to do, but we need that 100% energy. So where do you think we get it when we've got half of it over here? It's actually kind of a tough question.
Drugs.
Drugs. Sometimes, right? How many cups of coffee a day? Used to be nicotine, all those stimulant drugs that keep us going, right? Good answer, good answer. So what we do is we actually borrow from our cells. We borrow from our other cells. We rob our cells essentially, and then we actually end up aging quicker, and we actually end up sometimes causing a lot of imbalance in our body. Because we're taking from somewhere where we need that energy, but we still have to get through our day. And I'm just wondering how many people have ever felt that in their bodies and in their life, where they know they're just like pushing it. Hands up? Yeah, quite a few. Right. Okay. So when we're not in the moment, it means we're projecting into the future, or we're pushing our energy putting our energy into the past. And if you imagine us living like that all the time, it means we're either in a state of anxiety to a certain degree, or we're in a state of remorse, regret, guilt, or what's the other word somebody gave? Depression, sadness. Yeah. So we're in those states all the time. We're going to need some relief, because that's a really dysfunctional way to live. So where are we going to get this relief? Where do we typically get relief? Because we can't stay in this state all the time. We need to feel differently. So where are we going to get relief? Where do we generally reach out for relief?
Friends.
Food.
TV.
Friends.
Many times. TV is not a very good choice though.
Okay? Food.
Exercise and yoga.
Exercise, yoga,
Meditation.
sleeping pills, meditation. Okay, there's some healthy ones in there, and there's some not healthy ones, because we tend to do a little bit of both. What else do we sometimes reach for to feel differently? Medication. Yeah, quite often we reach for medication. Medication in the form of lots of different things, right? Medication could be alcohol, a few glasses of wine here and there, could be a few beers, could be smoking, could be coffee, could be even heroin or something like that, but some type of medication. So something that makes us feel differently than that constant state of anxiety or depression, regret, remorse that we're in. And when we do that, well, actually, I'll just back up a little bit. I can tell you that I've been a therapist in the field of counseling for about 20 years now. And I've worked with a lot of people who have compulsive behaviors of many, many different sorts. And when I started out in the field, I was really young. I was in my 20s, and I believed everything that was told to me about addiction. And one of the things that was told to me about addiction was that there were a lot of substances out there that had a high dependency level. And that meant that you could get addicted to them really, really quickly. And there was tons of them: alcohol, tobacco, benzodiazepines, lorazepam, clonazepam, and the list went on and on and on. And I believed that, because I saw lots of people who were addicted to those things, so why wouldn't I believe that? And then as technology started to become more and more prominent in our society, we started to have behavioral addictions. And it started to be gambling, gaming, internet usage, pornography. And I started to think, wow, you could be just about addicted to anything. And surely all of those behaviors and all those substances can't be so highly dependable. And actually what ended up happening is I ended up working for a local addiction agency in BC. And a gentleman called up and asked if he could have help because he couldn't stop drinking water. And it was kind of like, well, that's interesting because water isn't something that has a high dependence level that you can get addicted to. But the need to fill himself up and feel differently made a lot of sense. And so I started to look at addiction as really a compulsive behavior towards anything. So anything that you do too much can become an addiction, in the sense of a biological addiction. So of course, any behavior you couple with something else is going to become a habit over a certain period of time. So if somebody goes home and drinks a glass of wine every night when they cook dinner for 2 years, that's going to become a habit. It's probably going to be hard to change at some point. Or somebody might go home and drink 5 beers every night for 2 years. That's going to be hard to change. Even stopping on the way to work and getting a coffee could be a hard habit to break or to change. So that got me wondering, what is it that's causing these addictions? Because you can get addicted to anything you do too much. But that didn't really make sense, because that means we could be addicted to everything. And it occurred to me that the biggest addiction we really have is being in these different mood states. So the biggest addiction that we really have is the addiction to overthinking. We are a mind-driven society that is thinking compulsively, the same as any other addiction is formulated. We're doing it too much. We're thinking all the time. We're thinking so much, it's so difficult not to think. How many people sat down and tried not to think for 1 minute? How did you do? Not so well. It's really difficult because we have been thinking and thinking and trying to think our way through everything. So with this compulsive thinking, we don't really recognize it as an addiction, and it's kind of strange to stand up here and say that it's an addiction. But we don't think of it as an addiction because we're all doing it. It doesn't seem odd. Nobody's standing out as somebody who's not thinking too much. We're all thinking too much. And when we're thinking too much, again, we need that relief from that. So let me ask you again, if this is the case, and we know that if we're thinking too much, we could just stop, what makes it so difficult for us to stop?
Well, I'm not used to it. Like when I try to meditate, that's when I try to stop thinking. And it's so hard for me just to shut my mind down.
Yeah, we're not used to it. And it feels odd. And we're waiting for some type of stimulus or some type of drama to take place when we're being quiet. Like there's something not quite right. And another reason is that we have derived this sense of ourself from the thoughts we tell ourselves. So we've derived the sense of ourself from the story we tell ourselves about us. So I'm such and such, I'm a teacher, I have 3 kids, I do this, I'm a depressed person, I've been depressed for the last 20 years, I'm a mom, I'm a dad, whatever I am. We create the story in our minds of who we are. And a lot of times we think if we stop thinking, we're going to lose who we are in some way. How are we going to know who we are if we're not thinking? Because we're thinking, our thinking is telling us who we are. So if we stop thinking, who are we going to be? It can be kind of a strange thing. It can also be a little bit scary. So we tell ourselves, we think our way into this sense of identity. And in doing that, we create some sort of idea of who we are. And is that who we really are? Is it who we really are? What do you think? No. But we think that's who we are, right? We think that's who we are. We have a history, and that's who we are. And it's not that those things didn't happen to us, but they are not who we are. So there's a difference because those are things that happened to us, but they are not who we are. Because if we were in the present moment, we would realize that all of those things we think we are aren't really present right now. Because all that's happening right now is you're just sitting here in this room listening to me on a Wednesday night in the Markham Village Community Center. And that's it. So we still think that those things are who we are. And and we hold on to them. So if somebody tells us, let's say when we're young, that we're overweight, or we're not good enough, or we're not smart, so we'll hold on to that. And in this moment, we won't be smart, and we'll be overweight, and we won't be good enough. And we'll look for ways to validate that as well. Does that make sense for people? Yeah. Okay. That's you. Yes, that's you. Yeah, you relate to that a lot. So we have this idea that we're the story we created in our head. And we live in the confines of that story. So just think about that for a minute. When we're not in the present moment, which is the only moment when we're really alive, because it's the only moment when we are in line with the life force, then we are missing our life. Because we're basically reacting to what we're telling ourselves, but we're not really here. And so if we look at, a lot of people said that's not really who we are, but yet it's so hard not to identify with that. Who is it you think we are? Because some people are really adamant about that. That's not who we are. So who do you think we are? Any ideas? There's no right or wrong. Yes?
Well, I think we tend to think we have to do things, right? So we are products or we're machines. We gotta get this done, we gotta get that done. Or we didn't do this, we didn't.
Yes. We think we have to be doing something all the time. And I love what you said, we're products, we're like machines. So we're doing, and we're doing it unconsciously, on automatic pilot. Like we don't know what we're doing. Have you ever driven somewhere and you don't know how you got there? Hands up. I'm not surprised. Yeah. So we're doing, but we're not really being, and we're not thinking about what we're doing. And we can become those kind of robotic machines without really paying attention. And when we think about it, we have this limitation because we're really just human beings, right? We're human beings, we have limitations. So we cannot see all the colors of the spectrum. We can't hear all of the sounds in nature because we have limitations. And as such, we go through life with this personality that will not be permanent. There'll be this lifetime, and then there'll be another incarnation of another personality. So we have this personality that has these challenges, and we go through life overcoming these challenges. And then often we get to a certain age where we say, okay, I don't want that anymore. And I don't want this, and I'm going to choose my friends, and this is how I want to be from now on. What do you think's happening to you?
Getting conscious.
You're becoming mature.
Making conscious efforts.
You're becoming more conscious, less unconscious.
More aware.
You're more aware.
Of
Yeah.
your story.
You're more aware of your story, perhaps. You're doing really well if you're really aware of your story. But you know that there's something, you're kind of more clear about what you do want and you don't want. And you start to change. And so what that is the evolution that we're meant to go through as human beings. We're meant to evolve. We're not meant to stay in little boxes and stay kind of in this regular thing that we do all the time. Think about it as a hamster running on a wheel, and he never gets off. And he can spend his whole life on that wheel, and he never get out of the cage. So we can do that by the doing unconsciously and automatically. That would be really easy to do. But there would be something missing. And I know everybody in this room knows that. There'd be something missing. Because when you do the doing, there are moments in that doing when you say, there's something that's not right here. There's something missing. There's something else. There's got to be something else, because this is kind of like the hamster running on the wheel. So, what is it we're looking for? What are we looking for when we start making those choices about how we want to be in our life?
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. Let's write this down. So on peace of mind, what else might we be looking for?
Balance.
Answers.
Answers, okay. And there was another one? Back here?
Balance.
Balance, yeah.
fulfillness.
We also want happiness.
Okay, yes, fulfillment and happiness.
And meaning to our lives.
And meaning in our lives. Okay. So we want meaningful lives, we want peace, we want some sort of answers, we want balance, fulfillment, and happiness. Okay, so when we're reaching out to those things to bring us comfort, are we going to achieve this? Let's take the negative ones. Some of you said meditation and some good stuff out there. What about the negative ones? What about the ones like, not always, but sometimes medication? So are we going to be able to achieve these things when we're reaching out for something to find comfort from those mood states we were talking about? Are we going to find that by reaching out to
medication,
things
no.
like medication?
No, because it's
No
gonna
way.
mask the feeling.
It's going to
It's a
mask it.
Band-Aid, yeah.
It's a Band-Aid. Okay, yeah. So where are we going to find this? Help me to understand. Where are we going to find this?
I think you find it within yourself, like when you stay quiet and you start listening to your gut instincts and just stop, pay attention, and start to find it more.
You stop to smell the flowers when you're in the moment. You stop and really pay attention to what you're doing in that moment.
Okay. So when you start searching
That's
within,
That's
I
my
was just
choice.
gonna say,
that's yours. Okay, yeah, when you sit in the
But
present
many
moment.
religion could be an answer to most of these things.
A religious beliefs, religious practices could be the answer, yes. Okay, yeah. So everywhere but some of those things that we talked about, which were some of the things I talked about, some of the other addictions, and also medication, and I think some people said other things, TV, things like that.
Sleep.
Sleep. So we know that there's another place to find these things. Where is that? Where is that place? I heard the present moment. What is it about the present moment? Why? Why the present moment? Why not another moment that we're going to find this? Who are you when you're in the present moment?
Well, I was just gonna say, if you're worried about the past or the future, when you're in the present moment, you're not worried about it.
Yes. You're not worrying about it. Exactly. Exactly. How do you get there? We're going to get to that. When you're in the present moment, who are you then? If you're not this mind-made story in the future and the past, who are you in the present moment? Your authentic self. Your authentic self. What's your authentic self? These are big terms. What's your authentic self? Another word for it.
Well, it's who you are. It's where your vulnerability comes from, your imagination, your creativity. It's
Okay.
You're genuine to everybody else. It's just
Okay.
Who you are.
Your genuine self.
Yeah.
Now, we just talked about who you are was like the mind-made story of the person who has 3 kids and, right? So which who we are we? Because I'm so confused.
I think when you lose any kind of judgment about what you are, like I'm the wife, I'm the teacher, I'm the, lose all of that and just be.
Yes, when you lose the roles and you're no longer those, those preconceived roles. Yes? And who's that? Authentic self. What would be another name for your authentic self? You mentioned genuine. So genuine and authentic are really the same. That's your real genuine, that's who you are. Who is this who you are? That's what I want to know. What was that?
Your soul, your spirit.
Your soul, your spirit. Any other words for this? Self. Self. The deeper self than the mind-made self, right? The deeper self. Your soul, your spirit, your life force, consciousness. Some people will call it consciousness, Christ consciousness, the essence of who you are. And this is the part that's much deeper in you that is permanent. That doesn't come with those challenges and obstacles. That was already that way before you got here. And that's who you really are. And so that's the part where we're going to find this. Meaning, peace within ourselves. Answers, although we can discuss how that's going to be. Balance, fulfillment, and happiness. So how many of you, let's be honest, have been chasing happiness out there? When I get that boat, that car, when I go to England, I've been trying to go to England for many, many years. When I'm nice to people, when I don't explode, then I'm going to be happy. And if you did it even once or twice, thanks, Amanda. Yeah, probably at some point in your life, depending on how old you are, that you've been looking for or thinking that you can think your way into happiness. I will get the answer. I'll analyze everything to death, and then it will come to me. Right? I will think it until it comes. Once I get past this, once I get past this depression, the sad period, once I get past this, once I get past this, and it's a never-ending pursuit for joy and happiness and peace and all of these wonderful things you guys said, but it doesn't exist in the external world.
So make easy rules for yourself.
Make easy rules.
Easy rules to get happiness.
Yes.
Rather than achieving, having aims like this, okay, I will be happy when I achieve this thing.
Yes.
So why not be happy now?
Why not be
Let's
happy
try
now?
to get-
No expectations.
Let's try that.
Yeah,
That's good.
why not be happy now? So how do we do that?
Stop worrying.
Stop worrying.
Easier said than done.
Easier than done. Right? Right? We recognize that the pursuit for external happiness is false. You can't. Because every time you end up finding something that makes you happy, and there are things that make you happy and do bring you pleasure, and it is fun to get a new car, and it is fun to go away, and it is fun to do those things, but that once that's done, there'll be another thing. It won't be a lasting happiness, a lasting joy, a lasting what you guys are talking about, peace and contentment. So we know we can't find it out there, and you guys are saying find it in here. Just stop thinking about the future and stop worrying about the past. So we're done. I'm going to ask you this question again. You're not going to like me for asking this again and again and again. So why is it so difficult for us to just stop thinking about the future and stop worrying about or ruminating about the past? Yeah.
Can't turn your mind off.
Because the mind is going and going and going, right? The mind is going. And what the mind's doing is luring us into that false sense of self. What part of the mind is doing that?
Ego.
The ego part of the mind is doing that. What is the ego? Lovely ego. Do we know what the ego is? That part of ourself that wants to feel special. That part of ourself that wants to feel special, wants to feel noticed, wants to be stand out, tells you that you need to do these things, compares you with other people, judges you, tells you to get it together. This person's doing better than you. What are you doing? And it goes on and on and on. And the only way the ego can live is if you feed it, like your pet at home, or if you have a fish tank. So how do you feed the ego?
Dwelling.
Negative dwelling. You keep thinking about the future. You keep dwelling on the past. Because those are the things that the ego is saying you need to hold on to and you need to worry about. So what we need to do is starve the ego. We need to cut the ego out. And basically say, yeah, I know that's you, but I'm going to stay here right now. I know you want me to think that, but I'm going to stay here right now. I'm choosing to stay here in the present. Okay. So let's talk about how to do this, because you said, how do we do this? Because that sounds really wonderful, doesn't it, right now, right here? And when you go home, it's going to be like a big tug of war with the ego, and it's going to be a real fight. The good news is, the more you do it, when you make even a small stride, it gets easier and easier and easier, but you have to commit to it. You have to commit to it because the ego is just fierceness. It is gonna pull you